right, thank you so much for joining me. Here we are in the Reclaim Your 2020 live workshop, and I'm going to be sharing my screen and walking through some exciting information. But first, I'm just going to post into the chat here the link to your workbook. So if you haven't downloaded it yet, now is definitely the time to do that. So let me just share here. And just share my screen. Okay. Alrighty. Let me know in chat if you guys can see everything and it all looks normal. And then we'll get started shortly. Awesome. Thank you so much, Emma and Melissa, for joining me. And obviously, if anybody else pops in, we will allow them in too. And if you're watching the replay, thank you so much for joining us. I am super excited to get started with all of you. So we're going to talk a little bit about goal setting tonight. Cheers to you for being here. It is a fantastic event, a fantastic evening. I'm glad that we're well into summer and it's really exciting. I've got my summery tank top on and everything. So super, super excited for that. Tonight, we're going to talk about, first of all, introduction to me, who I am, who you are if you're here for this training. We're going to be taking a holistic approach to life organization. We're going to talk a little bit about why that's so important and how that pertains to the goal setting that we're going to be doing tonight. We're going to talk about your self-evaluation. So we're going to go through kind of where you're at this point in 2020. I know that it has been a tough year and we'll talk about that. And just basically look for the opportunities that we have for you to take this year to the next level in the way that works for you. We're physically going to be creating your goals and your roadmap to success. And we're going to be getting you the structure and the support and the free stuff that you need to get started on your journey. So of course, let me know if you have any questions. I've got the chat open and we will get started. Alrighty, so for those of you who don't know me, just kidding, those of you who are on right now do know me, but for anyone watching the replay, I am Hillary. I'm the owner and founder of Simple Harmonic, and I am a life organization coach, basically helping out new grads and young professionals that want to organize their lives so that they can chase bigger dreams. One thing that I realized as I was kind of going through my adulting process is that the idea of feeling cluttered and overwhelmed and stressed can really get in the way of figuring out what it is you really want to do with your life. So I made it my mission to help out those people that are just entering into that world and helping them kind of clear out that clutter and get themselves ready for whatever comes next in their lives. And I'm super, super excited to do that. All right, and if you see me keep looking down here, I actually have Instagram live on right now so that anyone who either has forgotten or hasn't yet signed up can get a little clue in to join us over on the Zoom, and then we'll have some more people hanging out with us. So let's talk about your organized 2020. So here in 2020, amidst everything that is going on, you might be feeling like your disorganized home is making you feel even more overwhelmed, especially as you're spending more time at home than you thought you would be, like way more time. You're frazzled at work or whatever it is that you're doing, whether it's school, work, a combo, and you're buried under a mountain of email and it's just too much. You might be thinking that you don't even want to think about your bank balance or your credit balance or just anything financial. It's just too much. So you might be feeling that stress as well. Your new year, new me fitness and diet goals from 6 months ago have fallen by the wayside or just aren't looking the way that you wanted them to. And you might struggle with managing your time or deciding what to do with your life. That can be a huge thing that blocks people from taking that next step because they just don't feel like they have the time and they don't feel like they know what that next step even looks like. So that might be you right now. And so if that is you, let's talk about what you could be feeling here in 2020. You could be feeling inspired by a put together living space that allows you to relax or get things done when you need to. You could be feeling on top of it in your career, prioritizing tasks to get things done, no burnout, or at least avoiding burnout in as much of the ways as you can. Like your money is a no-brainer. Like you're keeping track of your daily finances, you're prioritizing your financial goals, and you have a plan for your future so you know where you're going. You have a routine for your health and wellness that supports you in your mind, your body, your soul, you're all taken care of. You build habits and structures that work for you and find the accountability you need to begin dreaming bigger than just getting organized. Because I think that really is step one for a lot of people. I think that, you start out saying, I just need to get my life together. I just need to like start somewhere. And then from there, you can start dreaming bigger of what are my bigger life goals. And we'll talk about some of those goals tonight. All right, so who is this training for? So I want to kind of make it clear here. Obviously, there is a lot going on in the year. But that being said, it can be very frustrating to kind of get to this point in the year and feel like nothing has changed, feel like you're kind of in a downward spiral. So this training is really for someone who is ready to make a change. And the amount of effort that goes into that obviously kind of depends on where you're at in your life, but you're ready, you're like, this needs to change now. You're someone that takes ownership, so you realize that the part that you play and that your routines and your habits and your personality plays in what you do day to day. I know that that can be a trap that a lot of people are in right now, especially with COVID and everything going on. It's easy to place the blame externally, and there are a lot of external factors, but you're able to take ownership for the areas that are within your control and make changes in that way. And you're done playing small. You're done kind of spinning your wheels and wasting time and feeling like you're not getting anywhere. And you're ready to take action now and not once the nightmare of 2020 is over. Because as we know, things can change so quickly and we really don't know what comes next. So I want to make sure that, you have the structures that you need in place and that you're taking that action now and not just waiting until who knows when. So are you ready to dive in? Let's go. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about my transformation and how it pertains to goal setting and where I'm at now. So my starting point here in terms of being a frustrated goal setter is basically here as I'm graduating from Queen's University with my physics degree, kind of carrying that out into the world and not really knowing what it was I wanted to do next with it. I get a lot of people asking me, how did you end up in the corporate world after graduating with a physics degree? And basically my answer was, I didn't really want to do physics, and that's all I knew. I was like, I will take something else, anything else, so that I can just not do what I'm doing. And honestly, from someone that really prioritizes now the importance of smart goal setting, this was not smart. This was not necessarily like the right way to approach it, because what I ended up doing is falling into an area of my life where I was just frustrated and stressed out and feeling like either I wasn't getting to where I wanted to go or I didn't even know where I wanted to go. And so I think that a lot of people kind of relate to that area, whether it's either not having the goals in place at all or not really knowing what they're targeting, or on the flip side, having really lofty goals that they don't really have a concrete plan to reach and then never really get there. So for me, the biggest goal, for example, that really got me to where I am today with kind of running my business and also having a corporate job that I'm thriving in at the same time, the leap for me there was basically going from this lofty idea of wanting to, have a blog and do these kind of lofty things to actually having a concrete plan for launching a business and deciding that that was something that I wanted to pursue and getting all of the structure that I needed for that. So that's kind of the framework that we're going to talk about tonight and why I'm so excited to talk about this with you guys. Alrighty. So it is time to open up your workbook. So if you are joining us on Instagram Live, make sure to hop into the link in my bio to sign up with us and get the link for that workbook. And if you are on with me on Zoom, open up your workbooks now, click the link in the chat or in your emails, and we'll open that up. So basically what we're going to talk through here, a self-evaluation to determine your key areas of focus for the year or for what remains in the year that you're going to make the most of. Goal setting selection based on your core values and your lifestyle. Creating your game plan to achieve your aligned goals through this year, and locking in the structure and support you need to make it happen. All right, so give me a thumbs up in chat if you are ready and you've got your workbook open. We're gonna get started. All right, so the foundation of this. Perfect, you guys are ready. Awesome. The foundation of this workbook, this method, this self-evaluation, all of it we're going to go through is essentially the Simple Harmonic Life method, which is basically my way of walking through various areas of your life and kind of giving you that holistic picture of where you're at and where you want to be. It's a combination of 3 different pillars: structure, support, and sustainability. So structure meaning you have the kind of concrete steps that you need to know where you're going. The support meaning the accountability, the kind of whether it's a specific support group or whether it's a person or yourself or whatever, just kind of giving you the resources and the motivation that you need to keep going. And then sustainability, this is kind of the opposite of like roller coaster dieting or whatever the case is for your goals, is kind of creating something that you can really stick to and that really works in your life and doesn't just feel like a slog until you fall off the wagon. So those are the 3 important pillars that I want you to keep in mind. And it's important to put it all together. It's easy to find these things individually, especially kind of all over the interwebs. There's so much of this, but it is kind of tough to piece all of these things together and make sure that you have all 3, especially the support and sustainability piece. I find that there's, a lot of structures online, a lot of places where it's like, okay, 10 easy steps to achieve this goal in very, very short amount of time, but you don't get the support that you need and you don't get the sustainability, and then it never really happens. So that's what we want to avoid tonight. So I just want to have you keep that in mind. Alrighty. So what we're going to go through in your self-evaluation page is basically the 7 different steps of my method in terms of going through the different areas of your life. So the first one is going to be aligning your core values. So we're going to talk about this as like the precursor to your self-evaluation, because this is how you're going to keep in mind what is most important to you. So step 1 here is your core values. So why is it important to know what your core values even are? And first of all, do you guys know what your core values are? Have you thought about this before? Let me know in chat if this is something that you've had top of mind before. Basically, the idea of core values is getting to know yourself, getting to know how you tick, getting to know what keeps you motivated, getting to know what pisses you off, basically just knowing yourself well enough to create a life that suits you and create relationships that suit you and just every different piece that you need to get to where you want to be and know where you want to be. So for example, questions that you can ask yourself to figure out what those core values are might be, what do you love to do? What are you proud of in your life? What comes naturally to you? What drives you crazy just because of who you are? So kind of weird things. For example, what's something that you love to do that most people don't really care that much about? Like for me, that was planners. I was nerdy as hell for planners, and everyone else is like, this is not a big deal. I don't understand why this matters to you so much. And for me, that's because consistency ended up being one of my core values. I needed that like routine in place. I needed kind of to see my progress. So all of those sorts of things play into your core values. Emma says, yes, that's perfect. So if you know your core values, you're in a much better spot to get to the next steps. So what I recommend on a longer term basis is journal on these ideas on kind of who you are and what makes you tick, and list out 5 to 10 core values that guide your life. If you do kind of already have in your head a couple that might apply to you, whether it's, I don't know, authenticity is one of mine. I'll even just list out a couple of mine. Efficiency, whether it's maybe family, or just basically all of those kind of words that you think about when you think of a driving principle for the way that you live your life. So in your workbook, on a scale of 1 to 10 on the little first page there that you fill things out, you're going to rate yourself in this area. How well do you know your core values? So write that in your workbook, and then jot down anything that comes up for you at this moment, whether you're thinking, oh, I really do know my core values really well, jot that down. Or if you're thinking like, I'm not sure, let me list out a couple while you're talking, do that too. All right. So next up, we're going to talk about your space. So the reason that I go here next is basically because a cluttered space equals a cluttered mind. So if you are thinking about goals for your year and you want to, I don't know, achieve something super huge, whether it's like a big promotion or buying a house or something massive, If you are working on your plan for that and you are surrounded by clutter, like physical clutter in your house, you're going to be distracted by that and not actually accomplish any of the baby steps you needed to get to that larger goal. And so then you end up doing nothing, basically. So what I want to encourage you to do is start with an organized headspace. Basically, describe the vibe that inspires you. So kind of think about and write in that little box as well if you have any thoughts on this. Describe what sorts of spaces inspire you, and then prioritize organizing spaces where you spend the most time. So if you're going to have an area where you, let's say, work on your professional development and you're going to be in your bedroom or your office to do that, make sure that those are the areas that you're prioritizing. And maybe one of your big goals for the year is going to be in this space area. So if you are living in a space right now where it is just driving you nuts and you're like, my goal for the year is to clear out my goddamn closet. If that's your goal and you've reached the step 2 and you're like, this is it, I got to do this, definitely make note of that on your self-evaluation page. And then the last piece I have here is be sure to take a before and after. I find that it's super motivating by either by the end of the year or even by the end of the week, the couple of little changes you make to see how far you've come. So rate yourself in this area on a scale of 1 to 10, and let me know in chat too how you guys feel about this section. I'm going to take a sip here. All right. Perfect. Okay, we're going to move on to step 3. And of course, let me know in chat if you have any questions or if I'm going too quickly. We can definitely slow down and answer anything that you have top of mind. Okay, so step 3. So this is talking about your work, and this can be any combination of work, school, side hustle, multiple jobs, whatever it is that you're kind of doing in terms of making your living, but also developing yourself professionally. So my first piece here is to think about both your current job situation and your long-term career goals. I know a lot of people that are kind of in their 20s, right out of school, that kind of area, are not necessarily in the exact job that they want to be in for the rest of their lives. And that's totally okay. But I think it's important to keep a balance of having goals on both sides, or at least like a conception of where you want to be on both sides. I find that people who are in a job that isn't exactly their dream job may focus a lot on the long term, but then that makes them feel really, really crappy about the short term. And I think it's important, for example, to even just look at your day-to-day and be like, what is one goal I could set for the next month to make my day-to-day job better, to make myself do better, to make it feel better, whatever the case is. Melissa says that she's a 7 for space. Need to declutter my bedroom after you're away and set up that solid workspace. Totally. Because you're going to spend so much time in that area, it's super important to have that decluttered kind of headspace around you. And if you're going to be working, like it's super important to have a nice, inspiring space for that. So definitely do that. That's excellent to hear. All right, so next up on the work piece, basically think about applying organizational principles at work. The reason I say this is kind of the same as the previous step. An organized space means an organized mind. So if you are buried in email or your scheduling needs some organizing or whatever the case is, if you are feeling cluttered in any of these areas at work, your mind is going to feel cluttered and you will just not be able to perform at your best. So it is important to kind of apply those principles throughout your day. And again, whether it's to your short-term or your long-term career goals. And then thinking about your overall career, what fits those core values? So thinking back to step 1, what sort of careers or ways to spend your day fit those core values that you have created or identified for yourself? And finally, if you do have a bit of time to think on this a little bit later, you can describe your ideal day in your dream job. And I find that this is a good kind of inspiring activity to do if you're not quite sure what you want your long-term career goals to be, but you definitely want to picture what that even might be like, and even if you're not sure what job that is. So again, if you get to step 3 and you're thinking, oh wow, like my career or my schooling or whatever it is that you're doing really needs some work and this is where I want to focus for this year, then this is where you're going to put that goal on the next page as we get into the section. So make a star or a note of that as you go through. All right. And then rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10 and let me know in the comments how you guys are feeling about this one. All righty. So now we're on to your wealth. And this one obviously ties into your career and your work. But basically we're talking about money in general. And so I say this because we're going to start with your money mindset. So how do you feel about money? What have you learned about money? What sort of ideas about money have you internalized and brought forward into your adult life that maybe aren't the best things that you want to kind of rethink? And what do you need to relearn? So I bring up money mindset fairly often when it comes to talking about finances, because I think a lot of the strategy is there for a lot of people. They say, okay, yeah, someone told me in high school that I should save money. Someone told me I should maybe invest someday, but all these things are too scary, or I'm afraid to spend money, or all I do is spend money. And they kind of have these patterns in their head that they can't get past. And so it's important to start with how you think about money so that when you act with it, it's in alignment with those core values and not just with the fears that you've created over time. So kind of think about that. For example, I personally learned from my parents and from my personal experience that spending money is bad and you should defer all spending, like all purchases, as long as possible and buy the cheapest thing. And you know, the concept of like investing in yourself wasn't really a thing. It was more like, you know, everything's expensive. You can't afford it. It's too much. And that's something that I really had to work through, especially as I was starting to launch a business and really put personal development in the forefront for myself. So that's a big piece. So if you are running into money issues kind of on the regs, look into your money mindset first. Maybe that is something that you want to investigate from a goal setting perspective. All right, and then on the more tactical side, there's a couple of different things you can do here. You can review your net worth. If that's something that you've never done before, definitely check that out. You can conduct a spending audit over the next little bit. Those of you who have been following me for a while know that we're about to start No by July. Just kidding, I'm not doing it this year because COVID. Things have started reopening. It's time to go outside a little bit. But if you kind of are feeling like you're either overspending or you typically will spend on things that aren't in alignment with your core values, conduct a spending audit. See where your money's actually going if this isn't something that you do regularly. And finally, create a game plan for your goals. And this is more in the long-term perspective, whether it's buying a home, buying a car, traveling the world, anything that requires a bit of kind of cash to do, definitely create that game plan. And that's something that we're going to do later on as well as we're creating those goal plans. All right, so in this area as well, rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10. Let me know in the comments how you feel about the money vibes. I'm gonna get some tea. And let me know in the comments too how you guys are doing, if you have any questions or just like how the vibes are. Anna says, this is a tough one, so maybe a 5. Totally, it is a tough one. And especially as we're kind of, and I've been thinking about this a lot too, as I've seen people kind of graduating from high school recently, is that we really don't talk about personal finance very much in high school. Like it is not something that we learn except from the internet and each other and, you know, the school of hard knocks when we make mistakes. So definitely something that we need to like normalize talking about and get support with as we learn, because that's totally a fair thing to need support with. Alrighty. Cool. Next up, how did I accidentally full screen that? Sorry guys. Okay, perfect. Melissa says 5 to 6, transition phase from school to work and COVID. Yep, has been weird. Sort out financial priorities. 100%. And I know that a lot of people too, whether again, you're watching the replay or joining us on Instagram, COVID has done a number on a lot of people's finances. And I totally understand that. And I'm not saying that, you know, oh, we're going to make a goal to like pay off all the debt and like make all the dollars in the next 6 months. There are a lot of circumstances that play into that. And so this kind of goes back to the very beginning where we talked about taking ownership for what is in your span of control. If you do not have control over whether you are furloughed right now, that's okay. That's totally fine. What the entire point of this workshop is to create goals that work for you, that will help you get to where you want to be within kind of your own ability and your own motivation, and just kind of creating what is realistic for your lifestyle and putting you into a better spot by the end of the year. Alrighty, step 5, a supported body and mind. Basically health, your health. So what does a healthy lifestyle aligned to your core values look like? I like to tell a story kind of on this one a little bit as it pertains to my personal core values. When I was starting out on my fitness journey, a few years ago, I thought that fitness was just for people who were already fit. And you basically had to be an athlete to go to the gym, because otherwise it's embarrassing. So when I decided like, oh crap, I probably should get healthy at some point. When I decided this, I thought, okay, well, I'll just like go to the gym and like get ripped, and that's just what people do, right? And I couldn't motivate myself with that idea of like being fit. Like that wasn't enough for me. I didn't find it motivating. I was putting it off. It took me months to like actually go to the gym. And what I realized was it's because like aesthetics, or I don't know, fitness itself are not my core values. That was not connecting with me at all. However, consistency is one of my core values, and efficiency is one of my core values. And so when I created a daily workout routine that I could fit into my schedule in a short amount of time and do it the same time every day, that's when it clicked for me that like, oh, this is consistent. I can do this. I'm consistent. And suddenly it was something that I just flipped into my brain that like, yeah, this is something that you do. And I found that for a lot of people who kind of have different core values than just like looking good, you kind of need a different way of thinking about it so that you can really prioritize that. So maybe your core value is going to be something along the lines of like, you know, self-reflection, or energy, or just things that like maybe mean taking a different approach, or taking a more holistic approach to the way that you approach your health. And that's totally fine, and like something that you should do. And then a different thing that I want to point out here is dive into all the areas of your health, not just your fitness, not just your fitness and nutrition. There's also hydration. There's also sleep. There's also mental stimulation and mental recovery. And the reason that I split out physical recovery and mental recovery very intentionally, because I think a lot of people think, oh, I'm just going to veg out in front of Netflix and that will just take care of both. But not really, because you're not really doing the mental recovery part by staring at a screen. I find that you really need like kind of a more of a reset on the mental perspective, even if you are lying on the couch. Like I don't think that quite does it a lot of the time. So creating hobbies and activities that will really help you mentally reset as well. And social fulfillment. This has been a big one that people have noticed through COVID, you know, like not having those routines in place to connect with friends, or talk to them, or, you know, have any sort of interaction beyond whatever's going on at work. This is definitely something that plays into health as well. So rate yourself on this one on a scale of 1 to 10 of like how you're feeling in general about your health, and if it's something that you want to focus on from a goal setting perspective. And let me know in the chat how you feel about this. And more tea. All right. So step 6 is yourself. So this is kind of about your time, your energy, how you kind of approach your day in general. Emma says on the previous one, this is another weak one, probably a 6. Yeah, and it's definitely a good opportunity to revisit these things as like schedules look a little bit different than they usually do. And there's a lot of time left in the year to create routines and habits for your health that work for you, that aren't just what everybody else is doing. I think it's a good time to like reflect and figure out what you really want to be doing and what fits your lifestyle. And Melissa says 7 to 8, been better since COVID with nutrition, hydration. Definitely need to bump up the exercise. Yeah, I think that's one that a lot of people are struggling with being at home. I've always worked out at home, I think initially out of fear of the gym, but now I just have like a whole setup. So I enjoy that. I was actually going to show you guys, but I think I might topple the laptop. That's my little So I don't know if you can see that, but anyway, my little workout setup. All right, cool. Just move this over. All right, so in terms of time, a time audit is a good way to start. And if you don't know what I mean by time audit, I literally mean tracking how you spend your time for a certain number of days and seeing where that time goes. You've probably heard the quote that like Beyonce and Michelle Obama have the same number of hours in a day as you do. And that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be Beyonce tomorrow. However, it does mean that it's not that they suddenly have this wealth of time. It's that, you know, the time that is used might be better used in certain aspects than others. So literally go through your day and like track how you're spending your time and see what optimizations you can make. And again, realistic ones. So I'm never going to tell you, never go on Instagram again, never go on Facebook again, never watch Netflix again. That's, again, not sustainable. But kind of look for those downtimes maybe. Like let's say when you get tired, you start multitasking and you start getting distracted in between, flipping between all these different things. Maybe at that point, that's when you take a break. And that's actually a more efficient way to spend your time than trying to push through and not making it to the end and just getting distracted. On another note, what would a schedule aligned to your core values look like? So kind of going back to that first step as well, how closely does your time audit reflect that? Research some time management methods. So this might be kind of thinking about the Pomodoro technique, if you've heard of that. It's basically just working for a block of time, like 25 minutes, and then as it's up, taking a 5-minute break and then getting back to it. So that's one method. There's tons of them on the internet. Some of them are more famous than others, but definitely check that out if you haven't really thought about how you spend your time day to day. And finally, how will your commitments in previous steps impact your time? So if you create a whole bunch of goals for your 2020 and you're like, yes, I'm going to get fit and I'm going to work more so I can make more money or save more money, and I'm going to organize a different area of my house every weekend and get like all these things that I'm going to do, how is that going to impact your time? Do you have time for all of these things? Is this realistic? And what sort of things are you going to trade off in order to fit in the things that matter to you? So in terms of time management and kind of keeping track of how you spend your time, how do you guys feel in this one? So fill out that last section on a scale of 1 to 10, and then let me know in the comments how you feel about this one as well. Okay. It's not the last one. There's one more. I'm sorry. There are 7. Cool. Emma feels like an 8 to 9. That's awesome. Yeah, I definitely think like it definitely depends on the kind of person. And I know that you said in the poll earlier that you're a goal setter. And I think that a lot of the time, people that are like planners and like a lot more organized in that way are definitely kind of on the ball when it comes to their schedule. But it's definitely still worth looking into like what things maybe drain your energy more and how you can optimize in that way, and make sure that you're not burning yourself out as well. Cool. All right, and then finally, dreaming bigger. So let's say that you are getting to the end of this portion of the workbook and realizing like, okay, like I have a couple of things that I could work on, but none of them seem like a big enough goal that I want to focus on this year. Like there isn't anything that I'm like, oh, this is insurmountable, but I am starting to dream bigger about what I want to do with my life. Like I really want to, I don't know what it is. It might be launch a business. It might be kind of something in the broader sense. And if that's the case, that's when we come into step 7. So it's time to reflect on the progress that you've had throughout this process. So as you've worked through different areas of your life, whether it is your money or your work or your space, kind of reflect on how far you've come and how far you have been able to take your life towards the life that you want. This is where, again, goal setting and journaling and vision boards will come in. If there's like an image of a future that you want and like bigger things that you want to do, kind of spend some time in self-reflection around those things. And the piece here that I want to say is this can be tough to do if you're feeling bogged down by the chaos of everyday life. So it's important to prioritize getting organized so that you naturally free up time and energy to envision this next level. So I think literally if you've gone through this worksheet of evaluating your areas and you're not feeling solid on all of them, I personally find that like that will hold me back from wanting to do these next level things. Like if I'm feeling like my space is a 1 out of 10 or even like a 5 out of 10, and I'm like, I don't feel ready, I will hold myself back. Like I will physically hold myself back from those things. And so I think that it's, you know, not that I necessarily am saying like, never do anything until you're perfectly organized. I would never say that. However, if you think that starting to pursue this goal, you will get distracted by these other pieces that aren't put together, that's where I want you to like reprioritize and figure out what areas of my life do I need to at least get in a better place in order to take it to the next level. So in terms of envisioning your bigger goals or like having an idea of where you want to go next in your grander scheme of life, rate that on a scale of 1 to 10. Now you're on the last step, and let me know how you feel in the chat. And then the last piece on that page is going to be choosing one of the areas to focus on for tonight's workshop. Now, that's not to say that you can only focus on one step for the rest of the year. That would be crazy. However, we don't have time to go through like a million of these goal setting sessions, so we're going to go through one. All right. Cool. Okay, so one thing that I do want to mention here, if going through these different areas of the self-evaluation resonated with you, is that these 7 areas of your life are the areas that I go through in my Simple Harmonic Life program with my clients. So we spend 12 weeks basically getting organized in all these different areas so that when we get to that area of your future, you're really put together and feeling kind of empowered and confident and ready to talk about those next level things and not feeling distracted and overwhelmed and bogged down by all these different areas that can feel really disorganized. So if you're wondering kind of what this structure was or why we did it in this order, it's basically because this is the way that has worked for the clients that I'm working with and that I help in terms of getting their lives organized so they can do whatever feels like it comes next. So just a bit of an explanation there. Okay, so now it's time to create your action plan. So we're going to go to page 4 in your workbook, which should be right after the self-evaluation. Again, if you're joining us live on Instagram, you will want to sign up in the link in my bio so you can get the workbook and know what we're talking about. And we're going to get started on the action plan. So for those of you who have joined us live, comment in the chat if you have an idea of what you want to do for your goal tonight. If you feel comfortable sharing what the goal is, please do. Otherwise, just let me know that you're ready to go. And I'll wait for that. All right, you guys ready? Perfect. Money, let's do it. Excellent, I love it. Money and health, awesome. Cool, so what we're gonna do basically is go through the digging in process for these goals. So we're going to make them a lot more concrete. We're going to talk about how we're going to create the plan to get you there, the support that you need, and then how you're going to celebrate, which is always the fun part. So first, page 1. I'm going to kind of walk you through these questions. I'm going to give you like a minute or 2 to start jotting things down. Obviously, feel free to go deeper as you have more time later tonight or over the weekend or whenever you feel like you want to. And we will kind of flesh this out for you. So first of all, what is your goal for the year? So the thing that I want to encourage you to do here is be as specific as possible. Obviously right now you can kind of refine it over time. So if it is something a little bit more high level, that's totally fine. But if you have like a number in mind that you want to be saving or investing or whatever, write that down. Kind of give yourself that landmark so that you know what that means. So let me know when you're done that question, and then we'll kind of walk through the other pieces. Excellent. Okay, cool. So the next pieces, I'm just going to talk through them. If you're already reading them, you can start writing. But first of all, why is this goal important to you? This is kind of going back to those core values. Why does this kind of make sense in your brain and you're like, yes, this is something I want to do. And again, try not to pick things that like don't align with your core values just because everyone else is doing them. Like for me, going to the gym just because everybody else was, that was not a good goal for me. So make sure that you have a good kind of why when it comes to your goals. And then breaking that down even further, which of your core values does this speak to and why? And so again, if you haven't fully fleshed out what your core values look like, that's totally okay. But if you have kind of anything top of mind that you're like, I think I care a lot about, you know, the environment, or I think I care a lot about, like, for me, it was efficiency. That would be one. Or power, or confidence, or there's a lot of different ones. There's literally, I have a list somewhere of like 300 different ones. And when I walk through the core value identification module in my program, that's a part of it, is literally having this giant list of 300 to like go through and say, yep, that one resonates, that one doesn't, and really flesh out what that looks like. Cool. Next up is, how will you quantify this goal? This is super important. So it's important to know exactly how you will determine where you're at in terms of being successful. So take some time to quantify that. And then finally, how will you make space for this goal in your life? And so what changes or choices will you have to make? And the reason that I say this is because I think a lot of the time when we set goals, we skip this step. We say, I want to do this crazy lofty thing. And you never really think about what it'll take to get there in terms of like, oh, well, that's going to take me 4 hours a week or whatever it is. And I don't have 4 hours a week. So all I'm going to do is stress about it and then feel bad that I didn't hit it because I never actually made a plan to give myself 4 hours a week, as an example. So it's important to give yourself that space. So let me know if you have any questions on any of these, or if you guys are good to go to the next page. Time check at 7:45, so we have another half to go, which is excellent. And yeah, let me know if you have any questions. Alrighty. Got lots of people joining on Instagram. Wave to them. Okay. All right, guys are good. Perfect. Okay, so we're gonna go on to the next page. Again, you can always go back. It's your PDF. You can do what you would like. So the next page is basically breaking things down into bite-sized baby steps. So this one, it's kind of an open page for you to work with, and you can refine this over time as well. But the reason that we're doing this is basically to give you a to-do list, like a checklist that you can check off as you go through the year, the next 6 months, so that you feel more accomplished throughout. I think it's really important to create those milestones for yourself as you go, so that you have something kind of exciting that will happen every week to 2 weeks as you go through this process. So you're not just waiting until the end of 6 months to feel happy. And again, you know, it's important to feel happy no matter what and focus on your kind of positivity in yourself. But I know that if you're working towards a big goal and it's just so far away, it's demotivating in itself. Like it really, really is. And so give yourself those baby steps. So for example, let's say you wanted to launch a business. It's going to be an example because that's what I did a year ago. And so I had this 6 months where I was going to launch a business. So my first baby step, okay, what am I going to do? I'm going to hire a coach. That was my step one, to be fair. Step two, okay, I want to come up with what my business is and what the name is. Okay, that's step two. So I'm going to write that down. And as I go through these different pieces, it paused my live video. Okay, it's back. As you go through these different pieces, you get to check off and you get to really feel positive and you get to feel like, oh my goodness, I'm making progress. And that way you can see that you're on the road to where you want to be and you're not just kind of like spinning your wheels until you finally get there. So let me know if that resonated with you guys, or if you've kind of done this in the past in terms of breaking your bigger goals into smaller pieces. I think that it's really important. And also to give yourself time frames. So if something feels really overwhelming, giving yourself like, okay, I'm only going to do this little bit, but I only have this much time to do it, to make sure that you're still staying on track and like still challenging yourself, but not overwhelming yourself. So let me know in the chat when you guys are feeling good about this one. Again, you can totally go back to this and flesh it out later. Melissa says, the little goals are how I get through school and work stresses. Absolutely. Definitely. Like with my planner that I've shared about on Instagram before, I will write out like specifically the things I have to do for the week. Because if I try to list out everything I have to do over the next month, I will be very upset with myself that there's just too much to do. Like it's crazy. So giving yourself those little pieces and like breaking things down is how you give yourself a peace of mind and the motivation to get everything done. Awesome. How you guys feeling? You good to go to the next page? Awesome. Alrighty, let's move on to page 3 of the goal setting template. So, who or what will hold you accountable? How will they do it? And how often will they check in with you? I think this is another piece that gets very often overlooked. I think that, there are a couple of goals where the accountability is inherent. Like, let's say you're going to go to a workout class with a friend, that part is inherent. And so you kind of have those people, or, you're taking a class and they're literally marking you. And so that they're going to be on your ass to make sure that you finish it. But a lot of the time you set a big goal and you don't tell anyone and you don't mark it off anywhere and you don't have anyone really like pushing you or like making sure that you're following along. And this doesn't have to be a person. Like there are other ways to kind of give yourself the accountability that you need. But again, this is going to come back to your core values and this is going to come back to the kind of person that you are and the kind of habits that you've created for yourself. If you have convinced yourself in the past that like, oh, I never commit to things and I always fall off the wagon, telling yourself that like, okay, well, I'm going to do this massive goal and I'm just not going to tell anyone. I don't know that that's really the best way to make it happen. So give yourself that accountability, whatever the case is. Will it be a coach? Will it be a friend? Will it be kind of someone to keep you on track? Online communities are good for that as well. So keep that in mind as you frame your goals. Next up is on a scale of 1 to 10, how committed are you to this goal? And I specifically say here, if you're feeling unsure, go back to questions 2 and 3. And so this is going back to your why. Why are you doing this? What does it connect to in terms of your core values? If you're not feeling committed to the goal that you've picked, you might have picked the wrong goal. You might have kind of framed it in a way that doesn't make sense to you or in a way that isn't your priority. And if that's the case, it's time to reframe, which is totally fine. But again, like for myself, going back to that exercise example, if my goal was to go to the gym 5 times a week just because, that wasn't enough. Like I was not motivated to do that. I had no reason to. So definitely create for yourself a goal that you're going to be committed to, that you're like, yeah, I'm on board. This is it. It doesn't have to be, I'm 100% committed and I know that everything's going to be great all the time. But if you're on the lower end, like a 5 or lower, probably time to rethink. All right, 3 more questions on this. First of all, how will you stay committed to your goal when life gets busy or when you're feeling discouraged? This is what I want you to think about maybe over time. You can definitely jot down some ideas now. But in general, things are going to get hard. As we've learned here in 2020, things get really, really hard. And it's important to create for yourself that plan that will carry you forward through this. So this could mean, what am I going to do to stay committed? I'm going to go talk to a friend that has done this before me, or I'm going to connect with my coach and make sure that, I get the support I need. Or if it's, something that you can scale back in times of kind of struggle, you can say, okay, well, I'm going to go back to, I feel like working out is a good example just because it's like, there's so many different metaphors I can make for this, but let's say that you are just feeling really run down and you're like, oh, but I have this goal that I want to like, get in shape or like feel healthy for the rest of the year. And you're like, oh, but I feel awful today. Maybe that scaling back can be, okay, I'm going to do yoga instead because that feels more nourishing to me. That feels still supportive and still on track, but a different kind of level and like dialing it back. So keep that in mind as an example as well. All right, if that made sense, let me know. If it didn't make sense, ask me in the chat. All righty, cool. And then the last two questions are about when you achieve the goal. So first of all, how will you feel achieving this goal? So be specific here. And I want you to use like adjectives that will make you like feel the feelings of getting there. Like really, how will you feel? Will you feel elated? Will you feel relieved? Will you feel powerful and confident? Like what are those feelings? Write all that down and kind of like feel free to write a bunch of words that just like make you feel awesome about committing to this goal. And then finally, how will you celebrate your success? This is one that I personally have struggled with a lot in the past. And it kind of goes back to like perfectionism a little bit where, you know, let's say you have a goal in mind of, Melissa will get this one. Let's say you have a goal in mind of a certain grade in a class and you're like, I'm going to go for that grade. And then you get the grade and already you're thinking about the next grade or the next class or the grade you could have got if you'd only tried harder on that one test. And you give yourself this like notch downwards where suddenly you're not giving yourself the grace and the celebration that you deserve for accomplishing something that's amazing. And even if you don't hit that goal necessarily, let's say you come 90% of the way there. And if you hadn't set this goal, you wouldn't have even been there. You wouldn't have even been near the mark at all. The celebration is so important because it really just gives you that like reinforcement in your life that like, yes, I can do hard things. I have done hard things. And like, this was worth it to me. I was committed to this. You go back to those first few questions where you talked about why it's important to you and you did that thing. And that is worth celebrating. So kind of giving yourself that time to reinforce those positive feelings and just give yourself the celebration you deserve. Are you going to pop champagne? What are you going to do? Definitely write that down so that you can look forward to that. Yeah, like for example, and I'll give you an example that's fairly recent. When I said that I was going to launch my business, I said, okay, when I launch my business, I'm going to buy a laptop because I've been wanting a laptop and I want something to work on for my business. And then once I launched, I put it off. I did. I put it off for like a few months because I was like, but do I need it? But like, why don't I just wait until later when like it's super successful? You know what I mean? So you push off this like positive reinforcement for yourself in the celebration and it just doesn't feel good. Like it doesn't. And so now that I've kind of gotten to that point of like, oh no, I need to celebrate. I need to like really lock in those feelings and like prove to myself that like, yes, I am worthy of celebration because I am. I've decided. And so I'm going to do these things to kind of reinforce that. So I'm coming at you live from my laptop that I bought for myself because that's what you do when you celebrate. So let me know if that made sense and what you guys are going to do to celebrate your amazing success in your goals that you've been writing about. My cat is here to visit, but I don't know that she's going to come up here. We'll see. Yes, Melissa, woohoo for celebrating goals. Love it. Awesome. Oh, she is going to come here. Okay, we have a visitor, everyone. Oh God, she's going to knock over everything. Okay, we're going to move on. Alrighty. So I want to talk a little bit about the fast track to your organized life. And the reason that I want to talk about this is because if we kind of go back again to the evaluation that we did at the beginning where we talked about, you know, a cluttered life, whether it's in your finances or your work or your health or your space or wherever it is, can really get in the way of these bigger goals that we have for ourselves. So the fast track here in terms of getting your life together, I'm going to do a little bit of a plug here for kind of working with a coach that will help you get organized for good. So kind of having that support to give you the clarity and alignment that you need to make sure that you are on track for where you want to be, for deciding and taking the action that will really take you to the next level quickly, giving you a personalized strategy so you're not having to piece it all together through all the Googles and all the things that you're just trying to figure out all at once. and then giving you the support and the structure that you need to carry things forward into the future and make sure that it's sustainable. So just a thought on that as you're thinking about kind of next steps for the goals that you've created tonight. So what is your biggest takeaway so far? Let me know in chat how you guys are feeling and what you have learned about yourself or about organizing in general. Any thoughts that you have? Great. All right, drop that in chat when you guys are ready. Okay. So I want to talk a little bit about Caitlin, who is one of my amazing clients that had an amazing experience and transformation in the Simple Harmonic Life program, which is my one-on-one coaching program. But first of all, Melissa says, good, so connecting the goals with the core values wasn't something I considered before, but that totally makes sense. Yes, absolutely. I think, again, like a lot of people make goals based on what they see other people doing. A lot of people make goals because that's just the cool thing to do, is just to create, you know, goals. That's just what you do. But when you really connect it to who you are, that's when everything clicks, and that's when you really stick to it. And that's when, you know, you can create that next level life that you want and that next level 2020 that you want. So I'm really happy to hear you say that. Thank you so much. All right, so back to Caitlin, who before the Simple Harmonic Life program was feeling like she was a walking chicken with her head cut off. She didn't have any particular goals, which again, kind of going back to this process that we were going through, not everyone kind of creates these goals either that work for them or that, you know, drive them forward throughout a year or throughout their life. She wasn't thinking too deeply about her future, kind of going with the flow, living in the moment, but she was living a lifestyle that no longer suited her values. And again, she started going through that core value setting process and realizing that like something wasn't jiving, things weren't in alignment. And she knew that she had to care for herself, but she didn't really know how to make that next step. So out of all of that, she was able to feel in control and confident finishing the program just in the past couple months. She is motivated to work on herself. She's taking responsibility for her life and making positive changes. And this is across all the different areas that I mentioned earlier, those kind of 7 steps that will get you into that organized space. She is feeling capable of reaching her life goals now that she has them, first of all, which is amazing. Feeling supported and encouraged throughout each module. So we work through those together one-on-one, which is great. And it's kind of a really good opportunity to reevaluate things that you might not have thought about in your life as well, and getting that personalized support as you go through. And she's loving life and herself, which I'm super excited about. And Emma had to pop off, but yes, definitely catch what you missed on the recording. Hello, future Emma, who's watching this on the recording. All right. So yeah, that's Caitlin's story, and I'm super excited to be sharing that because she had a lot of really great breakthroughs and transformation through the program, and I would love to help all of you watching do the same. All right, so I'm gonna make a couple of guesses here as you're kind of watching, whether it's the replay or the live with me right now. You might be here because you're feeling overwhelmed by things going on in your life right now, whether it's due to COVID or just due to general life all the time. You might be feeling like you're faking this whole adulting thing and just waiting for the real adults to show up and tell you how this all works. Let me know in the comments if that resonates with you, because that was definitely me. And you might be feeling like you're meant for something more, but you haven't been able to find the time or the energy or the clarity to understand or pursue that something more, that next step. And finally, you're finally ready to get your life together. If you only knew how to stick to it. So you're knowing right now that like, okay, this is it. I really have to get it together. I really have to go through these different areas of my life and create a sustainable solution for myself that actually carries me to this next level me. But I don't know how to make it click. I don't know how to stick to it. I don't know how to get the accountability I need. And that might be why you're here. And so what I want to encourage you with is that you don't have to figure it all out alone. And I am here to provide you with the support, the structure that you need in quarantine and beyond, into the rest of 2020, into your new normal, into the old normal, whatever your life is going to look like over the next while. I'm here for you. All right, so I just want to go quickly over the program that I have created to help people through this kind of process of decluttering the life in general and creating the next level year that you desire. So my signature 12-week coaching program is designed to organize first and then elevate your life throughout the process. So we start out by identifying and leveraging your core values. So we do a deep dive into that first section where we talk about what makes you tick, what makes you unique, and how you drive yourself to the next things. We create structures and build habits in all the different areas of your life that need some tune-ups. And, if there are areas of your life that are more kind of sticky or thorny for you, we'll dive into those deeper. And then if there are areas where you're like, nah, I got this and I'm good, then we won't necessarily go into the same level of depth. That's why I love that this is a personal program, a one-on-one program, because we can go into whatever it is that's challenging you to the level that you need it. And then finally, at the end here, we envision a bigger and brighter future for you. You get to kind of create the time and the energy and the clarity that you need to go to the next level, to envision, the big goals that maybe you weren't comfortable with setting this year because you just didn't feel like you were there yet. So we'll give you that space that you need to do that. So what I want to tell you as well is that we have a limited time offer with special bonuses, special pricing, and special payment plans all right now. And that is based on booking an intro call. I'm going to talk a little bit about that. So the first thing you might be thinking, which I think I've heard quite a bit as well, and this is something that I told myself too. I'm doing fine. I'm disorganized and I'm stressed out, but I'm fine. I'm not falling apart. The world isn't ending. The clock is still ticking. Why do I need to do something like this if things are okay? And the reason that I would say is it's time to dream bigger. It's time to think beyond just doing fine. And getting that support now from a coach that's here to create that structure and support that you need is how you'll go from just fine to envisioning and creating your dream life so much faster than you would otherwise. Because you deserve the organized and elevated life that you're envisioning. You deserve to get to that next level, and you deserve to not have to wait, 2, 3, 4, 5 years to feel like you've got it all together and like you're ready for the next step in your journey. So the value of the program that I have created and that I've been kind of walking through with my clients and creating the transformations that they have been experiencing, we go through this in 12 weeks. So we spend 12 weeks of one-on-one support going through those 7 kind of areas or 7 modules. We have 8 one-on-one coaching calls as part of that, spread out across those 12 weeks. We go through, again, each module that we just talked about earlier, the different kind of areas of your life. We dive into them for 2 weeks each, approximately. We have worksheets, prompts, challenges for you to go and just execute, but also areas that you can journal on and things that you can really dive into from an introspective perspective. We have weekly email check-in in between sessions. So if you need, help or questions, you can do that. And then online resources and references for areas, again, that are the ones that are sticky for you, that you really need extra support on. Those are provided to you as well. And that's on a personalized basis for whatever makes sense for you. And also, we have some fast action bonuses, and I am specifically timing this around the halfway point in the year because I've been mentioning this on Instagram. If you haven't caught this, definitely check it out. But I'm reframing July 1st as the new year. Basically, it's time to start fresh. We're going to just kind of put that first half of the year out of our minds if we've been feeling that 2020 is off to such a crappy start. This whole year is a mess. The world is a mess. Everything's crazy. We're going to start again. We're going to start again on July 1st. and we're going to create those goals. We're going to create that structure. We're going to declutter, and we're going to make the second half of 2020 amazing. So for those of you who are ready to do that, you will get an additional 2 weeks of coaching. So that means going from 12 weeks to 14, absolutely free, if you book an intro call with me by Tuesday, June 30th. So that's the last day of the first half of the year. And you'll also get, just for funsies, just to celebrate you, a free daily and weekly planner template that I've created, that I love it, to use forever just for booking your call. So totally no obligation, just for booking it, you get the template, which is super fun. And it's basically designed around the idea of like having goals for yourself that are bite-sized, but also giving you kind of the structure that you need throughout the day. So I would love to send that to you if you would like to book your call. All right. So your transformation starts now. So your investment in yourself, whether it's in a coaching program or just in general in your life, is what kickstarts your transformation. Giving yourself that commitment to say, yes, I'm in, it's time, I'm doing it, is what makes you ready for the next level and gets that transformation going. So you're showing yourself that you're finally ready to get your life together. And that momentum is exactly what you need to make it happen now. So you kind of kickstart the process by deciding that you're ready, you're in, you're investing in yourself. So just a thought for you if you're kind of thinking that investment maybe doesn't make sense for you. And that, again, I mentioned this earlier, that like that was a big trigger for me and something that really got in the way in terms of my money mindset, that like investing in myself didn't make sense because everything's expensive and everything's scary. But creating the mindset of investing in myself is what gets me to the next level is exactly what I needed to get to that next level. All right, so that's it for the content, y'all. We made it to the end. So I want to ask for anyone who is on either live or on Instagram, what is coming up for you? What questions do you have about getting organized? What questions do you have about the program? Any thoughts or comments as you're still here hanging out with me? I would love to answer anything. And if you are joining via the replay, send me a DM. I'll answer any of your questions that you have here as well. All right, let me know in the chat if you have anything. All right, and then finally, our next steps. So again, as I mentioned, we have a few more days left in this first half of the year to get ourselves ready to commit to a second half of the year that's going to be amazing. So book your free intro call today or by the 30th to lock in those bonuses that I mentioned. So that's the extra 2 weeks of support, as well as the daily and weekly planner templates just for funsies. So head to my website, simpleharmonic.co/intro call to book your free intro call today. And if you book by the 30th, you'll receive 2 bonus weeks of support for free and planner template. Awesome. Thank you so much, Melissa. I'm so glad you enjoyed the workbook. And yeah, again, if you're watching via replay, send me a DM to let me know what goal you worked through and what you're going to do to celebrate when you get it. I would love to hear that. And yeah, I am so glad that you guys joined me tonight, and I can't wait to connect with you on your free call. We're calling it the day 2 of the workshop. Basically, we're going to go through the goal setting template that you created for yourself and kind of talk about how to get you to that next level in a way that supports you and in a way that's sustainable. So I'm really excited to chat with you there. So awesome. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. Have an amazing night, an amazing weekend, a holiday week next week as well. It's going to be great. So, all right, guys, have an amazing night. Bye. Oh, I can't stop it, but we're going to stop it. Okay. Good night, guys.